Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Naruto sat on his knees in Tsunami's home with Shusui placed on his lap, currently sheathed, but he did have one hand near the hilt ready to be used if it was necessary. He was fine and completely unharmed, wearing some light clothing. His violet eyes looked as hard as steel and his body was ready at a moment's notice. Why? Sat in front of him staring right back at him was the demon of the mist, Zabuza Momochi, who had a couple of extra bandages covering his body after his fight with Kakashi. The Kuchibocho was resting against the wall beside him with Zabuza's hands close to the hilt in a similar manner to Naruto. To everyone's relief and soon-to-be Kiri's joy, Zabuza, along with Haku, agreed to return to Kiri, knowing now that the destruction Yagura had been causing their country was over and was now being rebuilt. With their original goal now ceasing, there was no better time than to return to their homeland. With Zabuza returning to Kiri, their strength would increase and the future generations of Kiri would have a strong mentor to look up to. A new generation of 7 swordsmen would soon be born. Around the room everyone else could feel Naruto and Zabuza sizing each other up as only 2 swordsmen would do. Their overall aura around them was calm and peaceful for the moment, but any moment they could change and begin fighting like 2 alpha lions, proving who was the top predator around. Haku was close to her mentor, sitting only a few feet away with her senbons underneath her sleeves, ready at a moment's notice. She had heard about Naruto, of course, through the bingo book that Zabuza would regularly get updated. With proven abilities as well as being responsible for the death of 2 members of the 7 swordsmen in the past. It made a scared feeling surge through her. This young man, who was only a few years older than her, was easily stronger than her mentor, a strong A-ranked shinobi. Such power for one so young. Hana and Hey-8 observed from the other end of the room, drinking tea Tsunami had served them just moments before. The triplets were sitting around Hana, who gently stroked the top of their heads as they ate some treats she had brought with her. While Hey-8 would have liked to have been a part of the 2 swordsmen sizing one another up, he knew he didn't have the strength nor power to match Zabuza as he was. He wasn't that good yet. Team 7, however, were currently out with Tazuna, who wanted to stay as far away from Zabuza and Haku as he could, not feeling comfortable with the 2 shinobi hired to kill him living under his roof. Sakura had remained unharmed since none of the bandits nor Zabuza and Haku had paid any interest to her or Tazuna during the fight. Kakashi had only minor wounds with his fight form Zabuza, while Eiji and Sasuke's were a little more extensive given the amount of ice senbons that had stabbed them. Either way, Naruto and Hana had patched them up and they would be fine by the time they got back to the Leaf Village, albeit with a couple of tiny scars returning with them. "I hear you're pretty good with that blade of yours," Zabuza muttered, bring up some tea to his lips as he pulled down his bandages. He wouldn't let his guard down, not around this kid in front of him. "I hear you're the same. The Demon of the Mist." Such a violent title. Naruto expressed while doing the same. "Like Konoha's Blade Devil is any better. I dare say your reputation is even greater than mine. After all, you have killed 2 of my former comrades in the last 5 years. Naruto's hand twitched momentarily before laying the cup down on the ground. He pulled Shusui out of the sheath slightly, showing just a tiny amount of metal that still managed to glint light into the eyes of most. "Is that a problem with you?" Zabuza barked out a loud laugh that surprised most, even making the Ninken jump into the air. "If anything, you did me a favor. I couldn't stand those 2 fools." Raiga thought far too much of himself despite being the weakest of the 7, while Kushamara was far too quiet and secretive for my liking. Even for a shinobi, the man creeped me out. "Interesting that you should say Raiga was the weakest. Of your generation, who was the strongest?" Naruto asked. He knew of many of the swordsmen and previous swordsmen. But there was one in particular who had always eluded Konoha and never had much info on. A dark look quickly formed on Zabuza's face at the mention of the strongest. Even Haku beside him gulped and looked rigid as the question was asked. "That title kid belongs to only one man, Kisame Hashigaki. The strongest of the mist swordsmen by a large margin. How large of a margin are we talking? Naruto asked, wanting as much information on the man as he could in the chance he ever met him in the future. He did seem to attract the mist swordsman like moths to a flame. Zabuza quietly snorted while his hands clenched. He wields the strongest of the 7 Kiri blades, Samahata. A living sword that grows stronger by feeding on the chakra of the person that wields it. Only a handful of people have even successfully wielded it due to the amount of chakra it takes. Naruto noticed Zabuza avoid the question and asked again. How powerful is he? Zabuza took another sip of his tea as the others in the room all waited and listened to his words. I'll put it this way. The man's chakra is so dense and powerful that he is more like a tailed beast than a man. Naruto could hear Hayate and Hana take a big gasp of air while Haku looked away. Naruto gripped Shusui hard in his hand. The very thought of someone with that much chakra was unbelievable. Very few people in history had ever acclaimed to that level of chakra on their own. Not even some Kage had ever reached that level. However, Naruto couldn't help but notice the venom in Zabuza's voice as he spoke. It meant Zabuza and Kisame had some kind of history. You have some kind of vendetta against him? By your reaction to just speaking his name? Naruto asked as Zabuza nodded. Kisame Hashigaki is responsible for killing my mentor, Fuguki Suikazan, the previous wielder of the Samahata. And then afterwards he fled like a coward. He has rarely been seen since. Remaining out of sight since then. Zabuza rubbed a spot on his chest. We ran into him once. It didn't end well or in our favor. He muttered while Haku rubbed her left shoulder. Any advice if I should ever run into him in the future? Naruto asked while Zabuza looked at him with full seriousness. Yeah. Run and don't look back. He doesn't cut. He shreds you to pieces. Zabuza answered back before the member of the 7 swordsmen got up and left the room with Haku quickly following after him. Well, wasn't he cheerful? Hana muttered. Naruto and Hayate both nodded before Naruto noticed Hana was looking a little red faces and were very subtly rubbing her thighs together. A smirk appeared on his face that caught Hana's attention. Why are you smirking? I didn't realize you were missing Anko so much. She must take good care of you, he told her before winking at her coyly. It didn't take Hana very long to realize what he was insinuating and had figured out. Her face even more red than before while her eyes turned angry with her pupils turning into slits. As Naruto began laughing, Hana lunged at him with the blonde narrowly avoiding her sharp nails. Sorry Hana-chan, but I can't service you like that. For shame for betraying sweet Anko-chan. Naruto taunted before he began running around the house laughing while Hana chased him from behind, swearing up a storm as she tried to make her friend pay for his teasing. Here they go again. Hayate whispered while the triplets watched their owner and partner in confusion with their heads tilted slightly to the side. No running in the house. Tsunami shouted at the 2 teenagers, a broom in one hand and a frying pan in the other. She would not have 2 shinobi destroying up her house, especially not waking up her son who was napping after the long events of the week. While Naruto did stop, Hana did not and quickly pounced on the blonde boy. The 2 tumbled on the ground before they ended up with Hana on top growling and snapping at Naruto while said boy was trying to keep her at bay. Naruto was laughing despite the situation while Hana was becoming increasingly annoyed. Hayate though blushed at how sexual their position was. Though he kept quiet since he didn't want Hana to try and attack him too. Ah, you stupid blonde bastard. I love you too, Hana-chan. Before any more could happen, Hana yelped in surprise as a frying pan hit the back of her head, making her see stars and tumble forward. Tsunami stood behind her glaring at them in annoyance while Naruto scratched the back of his head in nervousness. Hee sorry Tsunami-chan. Tsunami humped before she turned around and walked away. As Naruto sat up, a small puff of smoke appeared next to him, revealing a tiny white tiger kitten that he could easily pick up with his one hand. Hello Narosama, the little kitten called out before showing Naruto a small scroll attached to her back. She purred and rubbed her body along his leg before allowing his access to the small scroll. She sent me here to give you this. Naruto knew who the she was and quickly took the scroll and opened it up to begin reading it, his eyes going over the words written in black ink. While he read the scroll, he gently patted the little cub's head and ticked her tummy, making her roll around on the ground in delight. The triplets looked annoyed at the cat but did nothing. She would grow to be bigger than all of them put together. Once he was done reading it, he looked at the clock on the wall before looking back to the little tiger cub. "Thank you, Mickey. You can head on back now." "Bye-bye, Narosama," she called before she disappeared back to the realm of the white tigers. Hana, who was sitting up and was rubbing her head, finally noticed what he was doing while Hayate was just staring over in confusion. "What's that you have there?" Hana asked. "Oh, this? It's nothing. Just something from my summons," he lied before he stood up and slipped on his sandals. "I'm going to run a boundary check on the area. Make sure none of Gato's goons have tried their luck now that Gato is gone. I'll come with. I need to run off some steam now anyway." Hana replied back and went to stand up before she was stopped by Naruto. "Don't worry, Hana-chan. I got it. It won't take me long," Naruto enforced as he patted her shoulder while heading towards the door. Both his teammates watched him go with Hana turned to look at Hayate in confusion when Naruto had left the room. "Well, that was weird. What do you think that was all about?" Hana asked but saw Hayate just shrug his shoulders. "No idea. It was no weirder than usual." He coughed out before lifting his cup to Tsunami for more tea, who happily did so. Hana huffed before looking in the direction Naruto had left in. Just what had her friend suddenly left so quickly over? Forests of wave. Naruto couldn't help but walk at a brisk pace as he avoided sharp branches and bushes. His footsteps were silent despite his movements and had his sensory abilities on alert as he kept checking his surroundings. He had not seen the woman he was looking for in over 6 months, and it had been killing him almost every day. Their last meeting was very memorable since some special words were spoken as well as shared a very special night together. They had never been together for more than a day in over 2 years, but he savored every single moment and remembered every single glance at her. Over 2 years they had managed to meet a couple of times. With the help of his summons they were able to message each other on a constant basis, which helped keep their relationship alive and keep it progressing. A couple of pictures, gifts and mementos were traded as well. "I know you're here somewhere," he whispered before he stopped at the base of a large tree that was significantly taller than the others. He stood at the base of the tree and stood there for what felt like hours, though it was only about 10 minutes. Before long he felt a blip on his sensors and could feel a chakra source coming towards him. It was strong. Jonin level at best, and was coming straight towards him and at a rapid speed. He turned towards the direction it was coming from before he readied himself for the incoming person. It didn't take long before a slim figure in a gray cloak bounded forward through the trees and lunged off from the top of a branch. The figure shot straight towards him and quickly barreled into him, knocking the two of them to the ground. Naruto wrapped his arms tightly around the figure as they rolled across the ground, knocking away a couple of rabbits that were passing by. Once they stopped rolling across the ground, Naruto found himself on the bottom while the cloaked figure straddled the top of him with their legs tightly by his side. Before Naruto could say or do anything, the figure leaned down and he felt a pair of warm lips begin attacking his. Instead of looking surprised, Naruto happily began to reciprocate the kiss back while his hand came up to the hood and quickly pulled it off. Her hair had grown out a little, now reaching just down to her shoulders, but was still shorter than most. Her pink eyes glinted in mischief and her body had become even more womanly than before, with shapely hips and a butt that Naruto couldn't help but let his hands wander around. Her chest, while not nearly as big as Hana or Anko, but it gave her a beauty that added a sexual look about her. Karatsuchi of IWA sat happily on top of her leaf shinobi lover before being moved to his lap as Naruto began to sit up, making sure the woman on his lap didn't try and leave. Their lips were still together and were hungrily reciprocating each other's pent-up feelings. Since their meeting 2 years ago at the Fire Daimyo's palace, they had been meeting up whenever they could, months at a time. Feelings quickly began building up between one another before they soon became boyfriend and girlfriend. Though neither told their families for obvious reasons. A Konoha ninja dating an IWA shinobi. Both villages would prefer hell to freeze over. Kami, I've missed you. It's been way too long. Naruto said in between kisses while Kuratsuchi's hands began running through his blonde hair. It has. These last 6 months have taken their toll on me. I've lost count how many times I wanted your summons to bring me to you in Konoha. Or you to Iwa. Naruto grinned as he momentarily broke the kiss, his violet eyes staring into her pink ones. I can't imagine our families would be too happy about that. My mother has already begun trying to find me a nice girl to settle down with lately. And I know once I go back home she will hound on me about it. Oh, I can imagine. Kuratsuchi whispered back into his ear, bringing her head forward and taking gently nips on his ear. But do you really want to talk about our families right now or just enjoy the moment we have together? Naruto smiled as his hand gently cupped the side of her face while his thumb gently stroked her cheek. How long do we have? Not long. An hour at most. My unit will be wondering where I am if I'm gone any longer than that. Then let's stop staling and just enjoy the hour we have together. Naruto responded as their lips quickly reconnected and their hands began unclothing the other. Their clothing dropped to the ground before the sound of moaning and gasps could be heard from their section of the forest. Tsunami's house. Oniai-chan, we're back. Eiji called out as he ran into the bridge builder's home in search of his older brother. The day was pretty boring now that they didn't have a crazy missing ninja and his apprentice trying to kill them. Well, they were still around, but at least they weren't trying to kill them anymore. Eiji ran into the living room expecting to see Naruto, but instead found Hana and Heiei alone with a recently returned Haku. Said girl was in the middle of pinning up her hair with a par of senbons and saw Eiji walk in. Behind Eiji, Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura, and Tazuna walked in. Tazuna was looking very pleased with himself with the work on the bridge. Many of the other builders in the town had begun returning to work on the bridge now that Gato was no longer around. In fact, with Gato gone, life in Wave Country was slowly returning back to normal. Wave had been through hell, but it was now finally beginning to heal. Naruto went out to do a patrol check Eiji-kun. He'll be back in a while. Hana told the younger Namikaze before patting the spot next to her, making Eiji cross the room and take a seat next to the older Inuzuka. When will he get back? Do you think he'd be up for a spar later? Hana laughed and ruffled his hair. I'm sure he will. Aren't you all worn out yet? She asked, but saw the blonde boy shake his head negatively. Now I got too much energy. I don't feel tired at all. Eiji responded before a challenging look appeared on his face. Do you want to spar, Hanane? Hana couldn't help but let a feral smirk appear on her face at the challenge. She guessed she could humor him a little. She was a jonin after all. Alright Gaki, I'm game. But don't go crying to your brother if I beat you up too bad, she warned. It'll be the other way round. I'm going to send you crying back to Anko-ne-chan. Eiji shot back before the two rushed outside to get their spar underway. I better make sure she doesn't go overboard. Heiei muttered while patting his chest, thankful he wasn't experience another coughing fit. They all watched him leave and noticed Haku follow too. And where are you going? Kakashi asked, looking at the black-haired girl. To watch them, was she said before leaving the room and following after Eiji and Hana. Back with Naruto. That was fantastic. Kuratsuchi muttered, breathing hard as she fell backwards and landed on top of an equally out-of-breath Naruto while her hand ran through his blonde hair. Their body was covered in sweat as their lovemaking eventually came to an end. Their legs were tangled together as Naruto's arm lay spread out through the cool grass. Yeah, it was. He grinned before he began rubbing circles into her side. Your stamina has gotten better. You were able to keep up with me this time. He got an elbow in the ribs but saw her grin back at him. I won't be defeated by that Uzumaki stamina you're all known for. I'm sure your mother keeps your father on his toes in the bedroom. She laughed when she saw him go a little green in the face. Please never mention that again. I really don't need the image of my parents doing that in my mind. The two sat there for a good 5 minutes as they basked in the afterglow of sex. They just stared up between the trees while Naruto kept his arms wrapped around her and keeping her close to him. Their clothes lay scattered across the ground, though somehow Kuratsuchi's bra had ended up in the trees by some means. I should get going. My squad will be wondering where I am if I stay any longer, she muttered as she sat up at and left her lover's embrace, noting how cold it was without his skin touching hers. Quickly though, she felt him appear behind her and re-wrap his arms around her waist and bring her back to his chest. I hate all this sneaking around, he whispered into her ear before lowering his head onto her shoulder. He heard her sigh and felt her nod her head in agreement. I know. I hate it too. It doesn't help that our two villages are so far from one another. And that's on top of how much they hate each other. Kuratsuchi responded back. I hate not being able to see you every day. We each have our own duty with our villages. Not to mention our families. Kami, I wish life could be so much simpler. So do I. The two stood and stared at one another as they pressed their foreheads together, closing their eyes and enjoying each other's presence. When do you think we can see each other next? I don't know. I do know that the Chunin exam will be taking part in Konoha this year. Naruto told her. Do you think your grandfather will let a team go? I really don't know. I've told you what he's like. How stubborn he can be. She replied back. They were silent as they parted momentarily to put their clothes back on. Neither felt the hill on their bodies form the cold air. Once they were clothed again, they turned back to look at one another and joined hands together. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too. Promise you will write and let me know what your grandfather decided about the Chunin exams. Naruto asked her. If she was going to be in Konoha, then he wanted to know. Even if it would be difficult, he wanted to make as much time for them to be together as possible without prying eyes. She nodded before a coy smirk appeared on her face and placed a finger underneath his chin. How do I know you're not just using me to gain intel on my village? Naruto smirked back. How do I know you're not just using me for the same? He asked back before the two met together for one last kiss, their arms wrapping around each other tightly. Both savored the last kiss they would have for likely some time. After a full minute of being connected, they broke apart. Naruto stood still as Kuratsuchi gave him a sly wink before she took off. She jumped up into the trees, hopping along the thick branches before she quickly disappeared. Naruto stood still for a couple of minutes, sensing Kuratsuchi's chakra signature before eventually turning around and heading back towards the bridge builder's home. He needed a long shower. The last thing he wanted was Hana smelling a woman's scent all over him. Something he knew she would likely pick up on. Days later. Home sweet home. Naruto muttered as he, Hana, Hei-8 and Team 7 walked through the large red doors of Konoha's southern gate. He turned his attention towards the gate guard, saying, my squad and Team 7 have returned from our respective missions. Thank you, Naruto-san. The Hokage already told us of your expected arrival earlier. Head on straight to the Hokage building. They told him, getting a confirmed nod from the blonde. Will do. Thanks. Naruto replied before turning to Team 7 and his teammates. Glad to be back home, Eiji? Yeah, definitely. Wave was cool and all, but I'm just glad to be home. I just want to go home and go to bed. Eiji admitted having missed his comfy bed more than anything. Seeing his home, he couldn't help but feel some of the stress and worry he had been carrying since the mission began slowly wash away. Only now that he was home did he finally relax, knowing it was over. Yeah, I know what you mean. There's nothing better in the world than home. What about you, Hana-chan? You glad to home? The tone he spoke in made Hana give him an annoyed glare, understanding what he was referring to. Or should she say who she was looking forward to seeing now that she was home? Don't make me bite and scratch you. Shouldn't you be saving that for the bedroom? He whispered, though Hana heard him and let a growl come from her chest, which only made him chuckle while Eiji looked at them in confusion. What are you talking about? Don't worry. You'll understand in a few years. Eiji pouted at his older brother as they began making their way towards the Hokage building. Though before they could go too far they had to stop as a dust cloud began speeding straight towards them. With no signs of slowing down. They all squinted their eyes and all saw two human shapes right at the front of the dust cloud that must have been the ones making the commotion. All the people in the street were knocked out the way, causing a lot of groans. Oh! Naruto gulped when he noticed one had familiar red hair and the other dark hair. Eiji and Sasuke both quickly noticed it as well and had panicked looks on their faces. They forgot all about what their mothers were going to think about their C-ranked turned A-ranked mission. Hana, Sakura, Hayate, and Kakashi all stepped out of the way and watched as Kushina and Makoto barreled into their youngest sons, somehow managing to keep themselves standing and bringing them both in for a tight and lung-crushing hug. Both boys were looking a little blue, trying to speak as they were being crushed. Oh, Eiji-kun, you have no idea how worried I've been. Are you hurt? Do I need to take you to see Tsunade? Kushina rambled on while Sasuke was getting something similar from Makoto. Both boys were trying to fight out of their mother's grasp, but it was all to no avail as they simply tightened their grip. Tell me what happened. I'm fine, Kaya-chan. I'm not hurt. Eiji managed to say before he felt the air come back as Kushina finally began to let up. The mission was a success. We kicked some serious ninja butt. You should have seen us. Kushina's expression though turned from was of relief to one of annoyance. Eiji Namikaze, you have no idea how much trouble you're in. You too, Kakashi. Don't think I can't see you trying to sneak off. Kushina hissed out while grabbing the collar of Kakashi's shirt. I've already dealt with Minato, who has spent the last week sleeping on the couch. You, however, you will be getting something much worse. But I was just following orders. The masked ninja squeaked out, but Kushina was clearly not having any of it. Nor was Makoto, who now shared the same look as her friend and took a hold of her son's collar now that he was released and grabbed Kakashi's with her other hand. The two mothers soon turned around with all three male members of Team 7 and began dragging them towards the Hokage building. Naruto, get moving. Kushina yelled, not forgetting about her eldest. Don't you dare try to leave without our permission, Makoto shouted. Naruto looked downtrodden before slowly and silently following the two mothers while putting his hands in his pocket. What did I do wrong? He whined while ignoring the groaning of the civilians that were still on the ground. I think this is where you should run home before they try to punish you too. Hayate whispered to Sakura, who quickly complied and ran off. She had no desire to be punished by her teammates' crazy mothers. Hana, who watched with a smile at seeing the loving mothers treat their sons as if they were still babies, felt a tap on her shoulder along with a familiar scent hitting her nose. She only turned her head slightly to the right before a pair of lips connected with her own. She melted into the kiss and felt a pair of arms snake around her waist. You have no idea how much I've missed you. Anko muttered out as she tried to keep their lips connected. I know what you mean. Let's go home. We're taking a long hot shower. We're? Anko grinned with Hana giving her a knowing look before the two girls left as quickly as they could. Once out of sight, it left only Hayate, who was starting to feel a little left out that no one came to greet him. He didn't dwell on it too long before he went in the direction of his own home, thinking about maybe visiting Yugo if she was in. Minato Namikaze was not a happy camper. Not one bit. Her family were dining at the Akimichi barbecue for the evening, a suggestion Minato had made since they had all had a chiraku ramen the day before. It had been 2 days after her siblings had returned from Wave Country after Eiji's supposed C-rank mission had changed into an A-ranked mission and got to face off against a world-renowned shinobi and his apprentice. She had watched for days as her mother paced around their home waiting for the news that her youngest son had returned to the village and had a shadow clone keeping lookout over all 4 of the gates. By then Makoto Uchiha had joined her, and the two family matriarchs had not been the most pleasant of women to be around. Even after Minato had informed them that Team 7 had survived an encounter with Zabuza Momochi and got to Wave safely, it had not dampened their worry. When they were told Naruto, Yugao and Hei-8 had gone as well, they felt a breath of relief, but their worry remained. Their youngest sons, who had only been genin for 3 months, were facing a shinobi of an A-ranked caliber. Mito, while being worried about her twin brother, couldn't help but feel green with envy and made sure to hide it since her parents didn't need more problems. Her poor father was already sleeping on the couch. Not only that, but since Eiji had come home, Kushina had been keeping a very close eye on him, making sure there were no after effects from the mission. She wanted to know everything that had happened on that mission. Makoto had been the same. Despite anything he tried to say, Makoto would not let Sasuke out of her sight or out of the clan compound other than for team meetings and training. It was annoying the boy and had tried to set his mother straight, which led to a long argument between mother and son. Eventually Itachi had to step in since he and Shizuka could hear them from the Uchiha training grounds. He had calmed Makoto down, who in turn sent Sasuke to his room while placing seals around his room to make sure he didn't try to leave for midnight training sessions. The mother and youngest son were not on the greatest of terms right now, with Sasuke avoiding Makoto. But Mito couldn't help but think how lucky they were to have experienced a mission like they did. Battling powerful shinobi and saving an entire country? It was like something out of a fairy tale. To say she was jealous was putting it very mildly. It's still not fair. Mito cored as she bit into a piece of her barbecue ribs, ripping the meat straight off the bone and not caring about the mess it was making around her mouth. Eiji got to go on one. Why can't I? Minato groaned as he enjoyed his meal, really wanting to put the negative feelings to rest over the wave mission incident. Kushina had only just let him back into their room the night before. He really didn't want to go back on the couch since it wasn't great for his back. He'd never admitted thought since he didn't want people to start calling him old. Mito, you know why. It was a mistake on my part and Kakashi's. I should have delved deeper into Tazuna-san's request, and I definitely shouldn't have allowed Team 7 to continue with the mission. It was a mistake on my part, and it's a mistake I hope to never make again. Minato informed, getting a stern look from Kushina as well as a nod. A mistake that could have gotten your brother killed, Mito. Kushina reminded as she wiped Mina's face with a napkin, getting an irked look from the 10-year-old. She wasn't 5 anymore. If it wasn't for Naruto being on the delivery mission to Kiri and getting to Wave, then the mission could have taken a very bad turn, one that results in someone's death. But you'll be with us, Ka-chan, and you're even stronger than Kakashi, Mito reasoned. Which means it's even more unlikely that anything will happen to us. It doesn't matter who goes with you or how strong one person might be. A mission can go wrong at any point in time. This has been a learning curve for both your father and I, though mostly your father. Kushina explained as Minato lowered his head in shame, a depressed air around him. I said I was sorry already. Sorry doesn't change what happened, girly man. The depressed air got worse while Kushina ignored her husband and focused on her eldest daughter. We will take a C-ranked mission in time since I feel the team is built up enough to do so, but any chance of a mission ranked higher is a long way off. I'm not letting you or Eiji go on to anything higher than a C rank until you're both at least a chunin. But that's not fair. Mito tried to reason but was quickly cut off by Kushina. Mito, it's the end of this discussion. You know our feelings about this and I will not hear any more of it. Mito's face puffed up like a squirrel with too much food in its mouth and turned to her silent older brother who was sitting next to her. Naruto had been listening in for most of the conversation while enjoying his dinner, choosing not to say anything until being spoken to. His father, Kakashi, and younger brother were already in hot water with Kushina and he had no desire to join them. Oni-chan, you think I'm ready, right? Naruto finished on the piece of meat in his mouth before deciding to speak, noticing his mother's eyes had turned to him as well, waiting for him to answer from the corner of her eyes. I want a second helping. Oh, miss. He got the attention of their waitress and placed another order while ignoring the annoyed looks her sister was giving him. He felt her hands on his arms and began shaking him. Oni-chan, don't avoid the question. Yes, Naruto, don't avoid the question. Why me? I should have taken Yugao up on her offer to train. He thought before turning back to them once his order was done. Mito, I don't think you're ready, so you should stop asking. What? Why? Because like Ka-chan said, you are not ready for it. You're nowhere near ready for a mission of that caliber yet. And AG was? What about me? AG asked, returning from the bathroom and seeing his twin's red face. Oh, the wave mission. It's not fair. You're just jealous I got to Rasengan someone and win a battle. AG said smugly, further infuriating his twin. Mito went to punch him but was stopped by Naruto's hand while Minato gave her a stern look. He wasn't going to let his children fight when they were out for dinner. Naruto brought her fist back and settled it on the table before he gently turned her head to look at him. AG made a mistake. His intentions were good, yes, but he didn't think it all the way through. Naruto told her. He should have thought about the consequences of continuing on with the mission and should have come straight back to the Leaf Village. We're lucky that he wasn't hurt or far worse. You should just be happy that he came home safe and not envious of him. But you were there to save him. Only by chance. If I wasn't there with Hana and Hayate, then who knows what could have happened. If you want to go on a higher class mission so bad, then focus on your training, go on the missions that you're given and be patient. Good things come to those who wait. Naruto told her while his parents both nodded in agreement. Besides, would you want scrub the house from top to bottom like AG has had to do in the last few days? Mito shook her head while AG shivered. Kushina had not been kind in her punishments. Would you like to get placed on guard duty for a month like Kakashi? Mito shook her head again and finally began getting the message. Do you understand me, Mito? I guess so. Mito muttered before feeling a miss on her forehead from Naruto, letting a small smile appear on her face. Their parents wore smiles of their own at the little action before the family of 6 went back to their meals in a comfortable silence. Naruto's second helping eventually arrived and thanked the waitress, who looked a little red-faced and flustered before scurrying off, an action that was not lost on Kushina. It brought up the small conversation she had with Naruto before he left for Water Country. You know, Naruto, that waitress has been smiling at you the entire time we've been here. Kushina told him as she wiggled her eyebrows. The only response she got from her son was a groan before starting with his next meal, ignoring the laugh from his father and the pout on his mother's face. Next day. Naruto-san, what an honor this is. What can I help you with? Mabuki Haruno asked with a look of surprise evident on her face. The blonde-haired Haruno was not expecting the eldest son of the yandere to be knocking on her front door at the 9 a.m. of all things, and was a rare treat for her to be able to talk to a member of Konoha's famous family. The parents of Sakura Haruno were both shinobi like their daughter that were at the rank of Chunin. Both were quite content with the level they had reached, and the lifestyle they got from it was enough to make them happy. Naruto had met the patriarch of the family, Kazashi Haruno, a couple of times in the past while he was on patrol on the outer walls of Konoha, and found the man to be pleasant to talk to. He could see where their daughter had inherited her pink hair from. Naruto bowed to the woman wearing his everyday attire of a simply blue long-sleeve shirt and black pants and sandals. His swords, as always, were sealed on his arms, and his forehead protector was tucked away in his pocket. I'm sorry for disturbing you, Haruno-san, but I was hoping I could speak with Sakura. I have something I would like to speak with her about. Mabuki looked surprised but nodded. Of course. She's still asleep right now, but I'll go wake up. Please excuse me for a moment, Naruto-san. Naruto waited patiently and could hear a commotion coming from the top of the stairs, which sounded like Sakura was too pleased about being woken up. The short argument was stopped when Mabuki mentioned Naruto names before he could hear rushed footsteps and cabinets being opened. A moment later, Mabuki walked down with small look of annoyance before regaining her smile as her eyes made contact with Naruto. She'll be down in a few minutes, Naruto-san. Thank you, Haruno-san. I appreciate it. Like she said, 5 minutes later, a disheveled-looking Sakura came bounding down the stairs whilst in the middle of putting her ninja sandals on. She stopped right in front of Naruto while pulling out a hairbrush from the cabinet beside the door and straightened her hair. She looked nervous as she looked at AG and Mito's older brother, who simply stood there waiting for her to finish. From the next room she could see her mother shaking her head before she went back to her breakfast. Sakura gulped and put the hairbrush down before meekly asking, "Hello, Naruto-san. What are you doing here?" "I wanted to speak with you. Come with me. There's somewhere I want to take you." Naruto answered back before he began walking away. Sakura stood there surprised for a moment before saying goodbye to her mother and walked out of her home. She jogged up to Naruto and settled in beside him and started walking at a similar pace. They were silent for 5 minutes as they made their way through the center of the village and not taking any notice of the civilians and the market vendors that were occupying the streets. Sakura had to try her best not to look at the clothes that were presented on many of the market stalls, some of which had caught her eyes and had made a note of to check the prices for later. Already her mind was wondering if Sasuke would like her in said clothes. When she looked up at Naruto, she saw he was just looking at the path in front of them and not acknowledging her, as if ushering her to speak first. She bit her lip before deciding to take the first step. "So what did you want to talk about, Naruto-san?" Sakura stopped when Naruto stopped and watched him turn to face her. They were on the edge of the market now and were not that many people around. There were a few shinobi, though no one that she recognized. "Sakura, I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to answer me as honestly as you can." Naruto asked and Sakura looked put off before nodding her head. "Why do you want to be a shinobi?" The question caught her by surprise, but Sakura answered immediately without thinking about her answer. "Because my parents are shinobi and I want Sasuke to like me." Her hands went up to her mouth and stood surprised at her answer. It was the reason she had told herself over and over again that she didn't realize what other people might think to her reason. If that is truly your reason to want to be a kunoichi, then you should give up and drop out of the ninja program. Naruto told her harshly and made her take a step back in surprise. "The reason you just gave me is an insult to kunoichi everywhere in the world. Do you think being a shinobi is a game?" Nervously she shook her head. "That's right, and right now you're making a mock out of it. It's reasons like this that end up getting people killed. Not only yourself but the people around you. Do you want the guilty conscience of knowing you got your teammates killed because of what a deadweight you were?" Again she shook her head. "Not only are you doing yourself a disservice, but you're making a mockery of the very shinobi that protect you and everyone in the village." Naruto looked down at the younger girl and could see his words were hitting her. Her eyes were beginning to shimmer, and despite feeling horrible for what he was saying to her, he knew it needed to be said. She needed to wake up and see reality. "Sakura, what I saw in Wave was completely and utterly disappointing. I had thought more of you and yet you let me down big time. Your skills are nowhere near the level of a genin, and if anything I think you should be sent back to the academy. The academy's 3 basic jutsu are not going to get you very far in this world." He gently ushered Sakura over to a nearby bench and sat her down. By now the tears had broken free and were running down her face while her hands were clenched in her hands tightly. Her sobs could be heard, and it hurt Naruto to see anyone like that. "Sakura, look at me," he asked as Sakura's sob-ridden face looked up at him. "I know how much you like Sasuke. Heck, I've heard Mito and Eiji go on about it in annoyance. Plus I have known Sasuke since he was a toddler. I know this hurts, but since I imagine that he your first crush, right?" Sakura nodded her head. "Sasuke has a lot of issues that go very deep. His issues with his clan and his brother have made him hateful and unkind. He's a good-looking boy, sure, but as he is not good for you. This fixation you have for him needs to stop, and you need to start focusing on the real world and not the one you have created in your head." "But I really like him." Sakura sobbed and her eyes met Naruto's blue ones as a comforting hand rested on her shoulder. "I know, and maybe in the future Sasuke may change and finally begin letting people in. But until then I think you need to let him go. Be his friend by all means, but don't expect anything to come of it. For now you need to let him go and focus on you." He wiped a stray tear away from her cheek and gave her a warm smile. "Can you do that for me?" He watched Sakura think long and hard, and they sat in silence for 5 minutes. He gave her the time to think and watched her eyes flicker as thousands of thoughts ran around in her head. It was hard for one as young as Sakura give up on something she believed in. But Naruto and everyone else knew it was not healthy for her to keep going down this road. No one wanted to see Sakura die at a young age. I can try, Naruto-san. That's all I can ask for, Sakura-chan. He responded back and patted her shoulder as a tiny smile appeared on the pink-haired girl's face. Now if I ask you again, why do you want to be a shinobi? Again Naruto sat back and waited for Sakura to give him an answer. The girl really wanted to prove herself to her peers, which was a good thing. She had determination, and Naruto and her Jonin sensei Kakashi wanted to bring that out of her more than anything. Without focusing on Sasuke all the time, she could do very well as a kunoichi. Naruto-san, I know what I want. Sakura said quietly as she gripped her dress tightly, with Naruto leaning in to hear her answer. I want to make my parents proud and show everyone I can be a great kunoichi. That's why I want to be a shinobi. Sakura watched Naruto's face before feeling a small sense of relief when he smiled warmly at her. Better, Sakura. Much better. Naruto stood up, which prompted Sakura to do the same. She wiped her eyes and tried to make her look more presentable. Now since your resolve to being a kunoichi is stronger, I think we talk about your skills and strength and how we go about improving them. How do I do that? Kakashi-sensei is still on guard duty for another 3 weeks. Sakura asked. She wasn't sure who to go to if she wanted to train. Kakashi was still being punished, Sasuke was training on his own at the Uchiha compound. Eiji had managed to talk his mother into letting him train with Mito and their team. She didn't know where to go. Even her parents were busy most days. Well, that problem I am about to solve for you. Let's keep walking. Naruto told her, and the pair resumed walking. Sakura looked curious about where they were going and watched as Naruto greeted some of the members of the public as well as some of their fellow Leaf Shinobi. She could see he was very popular in the village, but never realized how much so until now. She was beginning to see why Eiji and Mito talk about him a lot. Soon enough Sakura noticed Konoha Hospital appear in the distance and saw Naruto was leading them straight towards it. We're going to the hospital? Sakura asked. Is someone sick? Everyone's fine, but this is where your training is going to begin. He told her and saw who looked confused. Tell me, Sakura, have you ever thought about being a medic nin? She shook her head. I've never given it much thought, Naruto-san. They came up to the building and Naruto pushed the door open, holding it open for the young girl before he began leading her up one of the stairs while nodding to the nurses behind the reception desk. Well, Sakura, let me tell you about a medical nin in case you were unaware what their role is. Medical ninja are ninja who specialize in medical treatment and use of medical-oriented techniques to heal others and accompany other ninja on high-ranking missions to increase the success rate of the mission and overall survival rate of the squad. A medical nin is trained to avoid getting injured in any way, for the reason that if they are injured, then there would be nobody to heal the other members of their team. Sakura listened closely and began to get a positive look appear on her face. From how Naruto was describing the role of a medic ninja, it sounded to Sakura like they were very important to the village and it was not a profession everyone was designed for. It sounded to Sakura like a hard type of shinobi to become, yet she found herself intrigued and even a little excited. You think I could be a good medical ninja, Naruto-san? I do, as does Kakashi. I spoke with him about it and he has actually been thinking the same thing lately. Having you as a medical nin would greatly strengthen the team and would help you individually a great deal. Should Eiji or Sasuke or even Kakashi get injured, it will be up to you to patch them up. Not only will you be learning about medical ninjutsu, but as a medic nin your durability and chakra reserves will need to be increased. So expect a lot of physical exercise and taijutsu training to come along. Sakura simply nodded as they reached the floor Naruto wanted and walked down a long hallway. Nurses and doctors were going about their daily business with some light chatter coming from various patient rooms. Halfway down the hall they stopped at an office and Sakura watched Naruto knock on the door. Come in. She heard as Naruto pushed the door open. Hi, Nei-chan. Naruto greeted as Shizen stood up from her chair and hugged the blonde, kissing the side of his head and being grateful someone came to distract her from all the paperwork she had to do. Or should she say Tsunade's paperwork that she had neglected to finish or even start. Shizen's eyes turned over towards the pink-haired girl who was awkwardly standing there unsure of what to do. Is this her? It is. Shizen meets Sakura Haruno, member of Team 7 and Genin of Konoha. Naruto introduced. Sakura, this is Shizen Kato, Jonin of Konoha, disciple of Lady Tsunade of the Sannin and one of the best medic nins in Konoha. It's nice to meet you, Shizen-san. Sakura bowed to the older woman and couldn't help but feel nervous. She knew full well who Tsunade was since she was one of the strongest kunoichi in the entire world, if not the strongest. Therefore Sakura figured if Shizen was her student then she must have been very strong as well. The same to you, Sakura. Shizen acknowledged as she greeted Sakura. Naruto came to me yesterday and asked if I wouldn't mind seeing if you had the right mindset and skill proficiency to become a medic nin. Now before we do anything I will inform you I am a busy person and I don't get a lot of free time. However, if you prove to me today that you will train hard and work constantly at joining the medical corps, then I will be more than happy to take an hour or two out of my days to help you. Sakura's face lit up in delight and held her hands to her chest. That would be wonderful, Shizen-san. I promise I will try my hardest. Shizen gave her a smile and held her hands in front of her in a patient manner. That's all I ask for, Sakura. The medical corps of Konoha are always ready to take on more men and women like yourself into the healing arts. The more we have, then the better chance our shinobi will come home alive. Shizen turned to Naruto. I can take it from here, Naruto. I hope you remember our deal. Naruto sighed. I know. Your morning coffee and pastries every morning for the next month. Very good. Now off with you. I'm about to start my rounds in 10 minutes, which Sakura will help me with and observe. Go on now, off you go. Alright, I'm going. Good luck, Sakura. Don't let Nei-chan work you too hard. Naruto said as he waved goodbye to Sakura. I'll try, Naruto-san. Thank you for everything. Sakura thanked before Naruto left the room. She turned to face Shizen and went to sit in the Shizen was motioning towards. As they sat down, Shizen got out a pen and blank piece of paper before beginning to speak. Okay, Sakura. First tell me about yourself and tell me what you would like to achieve here today. 1 month later. Should we really be doing this? Hana asked, looking over at Anko, who had her arms behind her head and a big grin plastered on her face. They leaned up against a large tree, happily resting underneath the shade as the sun beat down on the village. It was a very hot day and most were taking shelter in their homes, in the swimming pools or under the shade of the trees. Of course. We don't get a sight like this every day. Let's enjoy it while we have it. Plus the heat just makes it even better. Anko explained as Hana rolled her eyes but nevertheless kept her eyes on the attraction that was in front of her. On the other side of Anko was Shizuka, who had a mix of content and annoyance. All three girls were in their casual clothes while their sandals rested to one side. I don't know whether I am okay with the two of you ogling my future husband, Shizuka said with a miffed-off tone, yet never took her eyes away from the sweat-covered Itachi. Anko could only grin, and both she and Hana could see the light blush that was on her cheeks. In front of them, currently using the training field, was Naruto and Itachi, who were making good use of the hot day and the empty training fields. Both boys were topless, having discarded their shirts early on after being egged on by Anko. Both young men were currently in the middle of taijutsu spar, with Naruto currently on the offensive and Itachi on the defensive. Itachi had requested it since he didn't want his taijutsu to slacken, and Naruto was the best person to keep him on his toes. Anko put her arm over Shizuka while keeping her grin. My dear Shizuka, you can't keep Itachi all for yourself all the time. You got to let us girls enjoy a piece of him every now and again. A body like the ones those two have need to be appreciated by us girls. I thought you were only into women. Why would you care about their bodies? Shizuka pressed, still not entirely comfortable with their ogling. No, Shizu-chan. I like both genders, and while my Hana keeps me more than happy, that doesn't mean I can't appreciate a well-kept male body. Hana shook her head as she knew Anko's playful and sexy side was beginning to appear. She didn't even bother stopping her from talking about their bedroom antics. It was a lost cause. Besides, no offense to Itachi, as muscular and defined as he is, I think we all know Naruto wins the Best Body award. Anko and a reluctant Hana couldn't help but look at the muscular upper half of their blonde friend and roommate. Naruto was the more physical fighter of the two, and the taijutsu and kenjutsu training was very clear on how big the results were. Though Shizuka remained looking at her fiancé, she would not deny he had a very nice top half. "Hey, what are you three talking about?" Naruto shouted over as he blocked a strike from Itachi and kicked him back, which resulted in Itachi skidding back. "Your sexy top half, that's what Mama likes." Anko shouted back, which came to no surprise to the two males. "Both of you come here for a second." Naruto and Itachi ceased their spar and made their way over to the three girls. Shizuka put her hand into her back and threw Itachi a bottle of water, which he effortlessly caught, while Hana did the same. "For Naruto." "What is it, Anko-chan?" Itachi asked as Shizuka slipped her arm around his and looked glad that he didn't try to fight it. "You guys heard about the Chunin exams that happening in 2 months, right?" "Yeah, of course." "What about it?" Naruto spoke as he chugged down the bottle of water. "It's all I've been hearing about at home. Mito is pestering my parents about letting her take part. Sasuke is the same with Kazan and I," Itachi added. "Well, I thought you guys might like to know, Hokage-sama has asked if I would like to be the proctor of the second exam," she revealed, causing both Naruto and Itachi to spit some of their water. "You're kidding." "She's not," Hana revealed. "I was there when he asked." Naruto couldn't help but shake his head and feel some pity for the youngster that would be taking part. Man, do I feel sorry for the genin. They have no idea what they will be in for. Anko licked her lips at his words. "You got that right. I plan on making this year's very special. I'll give it my Anko special." "That's just frightening," Itachi muttered before the group heard someone shout, "Onia-chan." A couple of figures ran out of the woods and appeared in the training field, revealing it to be Mito in her usual shinobi gear, and with Sai and Shikamaru following along behind her at a more gentle pace. "You know they were coming?" Itachi asked and saw Naruto nod. "I felt them coming this way 10 minutes ago," he revealed before motioning them over. "What are you guys doing here? Don't you have D-ranks to do?" "We already finished them. Kai-chan gave us the rest of the afternoon to train on our own," Mito revealed before pointing at Naruto with a determined expression. "I want a rematch, Onia-chan. I want to show you how much I've improved already." "Already? But it's only been a few months. Surely you don't think you're strong enough to beat me yet?" Naruto answered back, trying to look high and might to annoy his sister. He got his wish as her face went red and angrily pointed at him, while Shikamaru shook his head at seeing her get goaded so easily. Sai meanwhile just stood there silent as always. "That's it. You and me right now," Mito shouted, waving her fist towards her older brother. Her other hand rested on the sword that was on her back and was preparing to jump her brother into combat. Naruto wanted to spar with his baby sister, if only to turn the battle into a playing session that he knew would annoy her even more. But he already promised Itachi to spar for most of the day. However, he did get a wicked gleam in his eye as a thought came into his mind. "Well, you see, Mito-chan, I'm already too busy sparring with Itachi. You know we Uzumakis don't break a promise, right?" he said, and saw Mito glare at him with her cheeks puffed out. "But maybe if you ask nicely, Anko-chan wouldn't mind showing you a thing or two. She's not too busy at the moment." His friends looked like he had just swallowed a crazy pill, while Anko was gleaming with delight. Shikamaru had a bad feeling bubble up in his stomach, as did Sai, and it got even worse when Mito was actually considering it. Shikamaru's father had told him a bit about the sadist of the interrogation unit, and he didn't look like he wanted to deal with someone with her kind of reputation. Before Mito could accept, Anko jumped up from her sitting position to land on her 2 feet and happily cracked her knuckles. "Well, since you asked so nicely, I think I can show them a thing or two. Anko then proceeded to pull up her top, revealing a sports bra underneath along with her pants, which revealed tight spandex shorts. Anko, why do you have that on underneath your clothes? Naruto asked as he put his hand in his palm, something that was mimicked by Itachi. Hana and Shizuka both rolled their eyes. Shikamaru was trying to look everywhere except the near-naked woman, with Sai trying to do the same. Mito though looked at Anko bust before she looked down at her own. Will I grow like that? She thought before she felt Naruto flick her forehead. Hey, I know what you're thinking. None of that is allowed for another 5 years at least. He told her, getting another annoyed look from his sister as he patted her head as if she was a pet. Anko stretched arms and legs before she sauntered towards the middle of the field, swaying her hips hypnotically as she did that caught the attention of Hana and Naruto. I thought I would spar with you guys later, but I guess teaching the kiddies a thing or two can work too. Who knows, maybe Hana-chan would like to join me later in showing them how a real shinobi fights. Anko teased, giving her girlfriend a wink. While the others ignored the comment, Mito rushed towards the middle of the field with her sword already drawn. I'm going to show you how strong I am, Anko-ne-san. Don't take me lightly or I'll cut you for sure. Behind her, Shikamaru and Sai gingerly stepped onto the field with the pineapple-haired boy trying to find a way out of the situation. Everyone heard Anko chuckle as a kunai suddenly appeared in her hand and watched her lick the side of the metal with an elongated tongue. How cute. You'll find I'm the one who will be doing the cutting today, Mito-san. Anko spoke that made shivers go down Mito's back and her teammates too take one large step back. What have you gotten us into, Mito? Naruto leaned up against the tree with his arms folded, though an uneasy look was clear on his face. Well, at least this will ready her for what's to come. So how is she doing, Ne-chan? Naruto asked as he leaned over the chair Shizen was sitting on as said woman was going over a few pieces of paperwork Tsunade had once again claimed she forgot to do. Naruto's hand was resting beneath his head while he stared over at Sakura, who had her hands held over a fish that rested on a small table. Her face was furrowed in concentration as the familiar green aura of the healing palm technique washed over the fish. Mina, don't touch that. We don't want it smashing on the ground. Minato Namikaze stared into one of the many jars that rested on the enormous bookcase, which inside contained what looked like a pale pinky finger. It grossed her out at first, yet her eyes kept going back to it. Okay, Oniai-chan. She called out before she skipped over and as usual jumped into the embrace of her big brother, wrapping her arms around his neck while his arms came from underneath her to keep her steady. She giggled as her feet swayed around in the air. Shizen smiled at the interaction while trying her best to keep working on the paperwork. Sakura's doing well. She was a bit rocky during the first week, but she began adapting very well. Thankfully, her chakra reserves have grown in the last 3 months and I'm proud to say is now firmly at a genin level. Her control grew as well and has one of the best chakra control I've seen for someone her age. So it was a good idea to bring her to you? A very good idea. Naruto sighed happily. I'm glad. We could all see she wanted to contribute in some way, but her bad habits and mindset was really getting in the way. Though I hear she hasn't spoken much to Sasuke as of late. Naruto admitted. In fact, I think Mito has said Sakura has been spending more time with her, Ino and Hinata. It's a good sign. It is. The idea someone could act that way over a boy at such a young age was quite unsettling. Though from the improvements she has made, I think she will go very far in this field. She's memorized everything I have told her and taught her, and the patients she assists me with seem to like her. The nurses too have taken a shining to her, though her temper can sometimes get the better of her. Naruto chuckled. Well, it's a good first step and I'm sure her parents are happy that she's taking her career as a shinobi more seriously. Oniai-chan, what's she doing? Mina asked as she stared over at Sakura, who was still focusing on the fish on the table. Mina's face scrunched up since she recognized the green aura around her hands and knew her brother had done something similar in the past with his hands. Well, Mina, Sakura is currently learning the healing palm technique. You remember that Shizen and Tsunade are medical shinobi, right? Naruto asked and saw Mina's face scrunch up while nodding. Yeah, I remember, Oniai-chan. She responded back as she looked to and from Naruto and Sakura. Well, Sakura is currently learning to be a medical shinobi like them. Instead of fighting enemies, her primary goal when she is out on missions will be to heal her friends and comrades when they get hurt. Plus, when she's not on mission, she will help out at the hospital and help Tsunade and Shizen Neichan with patients. Mina understood. You can do it too, can't you, Oniai-chan? She asked with Naruto smiling and holding up his free hand to show the healing palm technique. I can, though I'm not a medical shinobi like Neichan is. It's just something they taught me just in case I got hurt and there was no one with the skills to heal me. It's very handy to have. He admitted. Why do you ask, Mina-chan? Mina kept looking back and forth between Naruto and Sakura before he saw a timid look appear on her face. Shizun saw it too and put down her papers. What is it, Mina? What's wrong? Naruto asked as took a seat beside Shizen, a frown on his face at the face Mina was pulling. Can I tell you a secret? She asked and saw both nod their heads. Of course, Mina-chan. You can tell me anything. What's on your mind? Naruto asked as Mina shuffled around a bit on his lap. Oni-chan, I don't like fighting. I don't think I want to be a shinobi like you, Eiji, Mito, Cousin and Tusan, she told them. Mina expected both Naruto and Shizen to look surprised or stunned, but instead they both looked at her in gentle understanding and both gave her a comforting smile. She felt Naruto's arms wrapped tighter around her and felt him kiss the side of her head. Is that all? That's nothing to be ashamed of, Mina, Naruto told her. I know a lot of people who are like that. Believe it or not, Mina, I'm like that in a way. Though I may fight from time to time, deep down I hate it. It's why I chose to be a medical shinobi and trained under Lady Tsunade. The idea of primarily looking after other shinobi and healing them helped me find my place in the shinobi system. Shizun explained. In fact, you don't have to fight at all as a medical shinobi if you don't want to. You can choose to be stationed in the hospital and sometimes in the Chunin exams. So I could be a nurse and still use chakra? Shizun nodded. Is that something you could be interested in? Naruto asked her. I think you would make a wonderful medical ninja, Mina. You're very smart and you have very steady hands. Naruto told her. Does Kasan and Tusan know about these feelings? Mina shook her head, which made Naruto chuckle. Do you want me to be with you to tell them later? Again she nodded her head. Never be ashamed about something of this nature, Mina. You could never make me mad or upset, okay? Okay, Oniai-chan. Mina whispered before the two hugged and Naruto gently rocked them side to side. Do you think they'll be mad? No, Mina, not at all. In fact, I bet they will be proud of you for wanting to be a medical shinobi. It's nice to have someone in the family break the mold. Naruto said. In fact, if you learn to be a medical shinobi, then Mito and Eiji can finally have someone to nurse them back to health when they've gone and got themselves hurt. Naruto chucked while Mina giggled. Eiji and Mito were always getting in scraps. Why is this so frustrating? Sakura yelled out as she began waving her fist at the fish before punching it. Bits of fish scales and guts went all over the table and onto the floor, prompting Shizen to sigh and shake her head. That's the third one this week. She muttered before everyone heard the door open and Itachi walk inside. He immediately looked straight towards Naruto and beckoned him over. Naruto, can I speak with you for a moment? Itachi asked, surprising Naruto, but he nodded that it was fine. He got up while putting Mina on the seat next to Shizun. I'm going to go talk with Itachi for a minute, Mina. Shizen Neichan can tell you more about being a medical shinobi. I'll be back soon. He told her and got a nod from Mina before Mina and Shizen began to converse. He left the room following Itachi out before both stopped in the hallway. Itachi looked pretty serious and crossed his arms as his black eyes met with his violet ones. What's this about, Itachi? I decided Sasuke's attitude has gone on long enough. It's time for some tough love in order to stop him from going down this path he's decided to take. Naruto snorted. About time, don't you think? I've always said you and Sensei were too soft on him. He saw his friend Sai and Naruto could tell Itachi had finally realized what needed to be done. Naruto didn't want to see their family get torn apart because Sasuke's hatred was beginning to take control of his life. The boy was too prideful and arrogant for his one good. I know, and that's why I need your help with this. He and mother just had another argument which left my mother close to tears. I'm done with this attitude. Itachi explained, to which Naruto was all ears. He was all for a good whooping. Especially if it was for Itachi's brat of a brother. Later that day, Uchiha compound. The sound of fists hitting against a wooden post rang through the Uchiha compound training ground as Sasuke Uchiha slammed his clenched fist against the hardwood, a look of determination etched onto his face. He has a bead of sweat running down his forehead and wore his usual blue top and white shorts. The skin on his knuckles were red raw from how hard he was punching his target, yet he forced himself through the pain he was feeling in order to help reach his goal. Since then night his father and many of his clansmen had been killed, all he felt was the swirl of rage building up in his stomach. The need to prove his worth to everyone had only gotten stronger over the last few years, and it showed in his performance both at the academy and when he was with his team. It annoyed him that he was forced to stay at the academy until the age of 13, as he felt he was more than ready to be put on active duty a year earlier. It was only because of the Hokage and his family that it was never allowed. It didn't help that he knew his brother and his brother's best friend were the two mostly responsible for slaughtering his father and his clan. He didn't understand how people could just accept it and go on with their life. Why was there no justice for their family? Why were they never punished for their actions? He didn't understand, and it made his blood boil. He wasn't like Itachi or his friend Naruto. He had heard what people would whisper around the village and how they compared him to them. It burned him to the core when they did that. He wasn't Itachi, and he certainly wasn't Naruto. He was Sasuke Uchiha, youngest son of Fugaku Uchiha, and the man that would one day defeat his brother to take the title of leader of the Uchiha clan. He would make their family prosperous again. You know, there's not much point in punching a target that doesn't move or tries to fight back. Sasuke heard. He turned around and narrowed his eyes when he saw Naruto standing 10 meters away from him with his usual calm expression on his face and hands in his pockets. He wasn't in his shinobi clothes and instead in his everyday clothing. He's fast. I didn't even sense him. Sasuke thought before he spoke to the blonde jonin. What do you want? Itachi's not here. I know. Naruto responded. I'm not here to see Itachi. I'm here to see you. Sasuke held his head high before going to turn around. I'm busy. Go bug someone else. Well, that's a shame. Here, I thought you would like to have a spar with me. Naruto asked and grinned when he saw Sasuke's body stop mid-turn. I was quite impressed with what I saw from you on the bridge back in Wave. You've got your Sharingan now, and I have been hearing from the civilians that you're making quite a little name for yourself recently. It's impressive for someone who has only been a genin for 6 months. Naruto's answer got the reaction he had wanted. He saw a small smirk appear on the Uchiha's face. He looked incredibly smug. I'm an Uchiha. Do you expect anything less? True. Uchihas are quite frightening. Itachi is proof of that, and I know what kind of a monster he is when he's fighting. So how about it? Slowly he saw the gears winding in Sasuke's head. In Sasuke's mind, he saw this as the perfect chance to test just how far he had come. Whether he wanted to admit it or not, the man in front of him was very powerful, and therefore a great way to see just how far he had come in the last 6 months. He had seen the match against the Sandaime, and it had caused a rush of excitement to run through his veins. He wanted that kind of battle with someone one day. In his mind, at least, Itachi was the only one that could do it for him. Fine, but I won't take it easy on you. An Uchiha doesn't back down from a fight. Everyone knows only an Uchiha can beat another Uchiha. Really? Well, that's funny, since I have beaten Itachi a number of times. How do you explain that? Naruto asked and saw an angry look make its way onto Sasuke's face. Obviously he didn't like that little comment. It was nothing but luck. Sasuke growled out as he took a fighting stance. The classic Uchiha interceptor style that Naruto recognized all too well. Sasuke waited for Naruto to get into his own stance but instead saw him remain in his current posture with his hands still in his pocket. "Get in your stance so we can begin." Naruto in return gave him a grin. "No need. I'm confident I can hold my own as I am." The words boiled Sasuke's blood at how lightly he was being taken and felt his nails begin to dig into his own palms. He would not be looked down on like this. "Fine, suit yourself," Sasuke exclaimed before throwing a barrage on kunai towards his opponent. When all of the kunai were released, he rushed forward. He didn't understand what had happened, but he watched as Naruto very subtly shifted his legs, shoulder and neck around just enough and watched in surprise all of his kunais go right past him. None of them even scratched him nor caught a piece of his clothing. It was similar to first time he fought Kakashi and how nonchalant the copy ninja had acted with him the first time they fought. Sasuke jumped into the air and tried to land a blow onto Naruto's face but promptly blocked by one of Naruto's hands. Sasuke thought didn't stop and then swung his right leg down as he twisted his body in the air. Again, though, Naruto blocked it this time by bringing his elbow up and stopping his leg from going any further. Before Sasuke could twist himself around again and try with his other fist, he felt his body begin to swing in the air and get launched towards the ground. Sasuke recovered as he skidded on the ground and saw that Naruto had barely moved a muscle. Narrowing his eyes, Sasuke raced through some hand signs before say out fire style, fireball jutsu. The fire flew straight towards Naruto and he watched as the fire engulfed Naruto completely as well as the aura of earth that lay around him. Sasuke would have smirked if not for the voice behind him. "Not bad." Sasuke turned around only to meet a strong foot connect with his stomach. The boy skidded across the ground and clasped his stomach as he felt the wind knock right out of him. He struggled to stand upright and shakily managed to stand up after a minute of trying to catch his breath. "You ready to keep going? I thought we were just getting started?" Naruto asked and grinned once more when he saw Sasuke activate his Sharingan, a glare on his face as he tried to burn Naruto alive with it. He rushed forward again but quickly stopped and fell to the ground when Naruto suddenly appeared in front of him. His speed is off the charts. Naruto slammed his fist into Sasuke's stomach only for the Uchiha to use the substitute jutsu. Sasuke appeared a few meters away on his left and saw him rushing hand signs again. Fire Sly Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Multiple flower shapes fireballs flew towards Naruto only for Sasuke to watch as Naruto did the impossible in his eyes and extinguished them with simple punches. His hands smoked slightly but he saw no pain register on the blonde's face. Itachi's version of that jutsu is at least 5 times more powerful and far more widespread. He watched rage contort on Sasuke's face as he mentioned Itachi again. "You should really learn to master your jutsu before beginning to learn more. Stop comparing me to Itachi." Sasuke roared out as ninja wire appeared in his hand and Naruto watched as Sasuke ran at his top speed, which Naruto had to admit wasn't bad and was probably low Chunin level at best, and wrapped Naruto's body in firm ninja wire. Sasuke's feet pressed against Naruto's shoulders before he pushed off into the air. A kunai with an explosive tag appeared in his hand before throwing it right in front of Naruto. Sasuke's Sharingan looked down at the captured Naruto and yet before the explosion could even happen he watched in disbelief as chakra wrapped around Naruto's hands and promptly swiped and cut straight through the ninja wire like a hot knife went through butter. And then as if he was trying to mock Sasuke, he planted his foot on the exploding tag on the kunai and deactivated it with a quick surge of chakra. "Your speed isn't bad," Naruto admitted as Sasuke landed on the ground. "But you should be mindful of your surroundings and not focus so heavily on one person in such a big field." Sasuke looked confused but before he could ask a hissing sound came from underneath him. Looking down he panicked when he spotted a live exploding tag beneath and jumped out of the way as quick as he could. The tag exploded and the force of the shockwave pushed Sasuke further through the air and slammed him hard into the ground. Sasuke didn't get a chance to act as Naruto appeared right above him and brought his right foot down on top of him. Sasuke narrowly avoided and rolled out of the way as Naruto created a small crater in the ground as his foot hit the ground. "Why are you running? Itachi never runs away from a fight." Sasuke's anger began to spike again as his Sharingan span wildly in his eyes and his whole body shook with anger. Why isn't he taking me seriously? Does he think he's better than me? You're not better than me. I will not be looked down on by the likes of you. He rushed Naruto and without thinking got a kunai out from his pouch and began swiping madly at his opponent. To Sasuke's extreme annoyance, Naruto simply sidestepped every single swipe. That lasted for a good minute as Sasuke let his anger and frustration vent from his body. He couldn't believe how powerful this guy was that none of his attacks were working. Even his Sharingan was completely useless against him. Eventually Naruto was fed up off the lazy fighting from Sasuke and decided to end the fight. He grabbed Sasuke's wrist mid-swipe before with one movement of his hand he broke Sasuke's wrist, a loud snap being heard across the field that dropped Sasuke to the ground. He fell to his knees in pain, but before he could shout at Naruto, the blonde delivered a powerful knee to the face, breaking a nose and dropping Sasuke completely to the ground onto his back. Sasuke held his nose with his good arm before he felt a firm foot get placed on his foot. Naruto stood above him with a look of disgust and annoyance on his face as he shook his head in disappointment. I honestly expected better from you. Even Eiji on his own could give me a better effort than what you gave me. Don't put me in the same class as him. I'm stronger than that idiot. Do you know why I'm hearing beating you into the ground? Naruto asked. Sasuke would have snorted but feared it would cause his nose to hurt even more than it already did. It was already bent at a funny angle from the knee to the face. Because you think you better than me? Sasuke sneered, yet Naruto shook his head. The foot on his chest got heavier as more weight was pressed against his chest. No, you little fool. I'm doing this because Itachi asked me. Naruto watched as Sasuke's face turned from hateful to one of complete confusion. He saw Naruto turn his head and look to the left of them, and to Sasuke's surprise there was Itachi standing a few meters from them with an impassive look on his face. Itachi's eye stared down at Sasuke, not showing any emotion as he began walking towards them. You can take your foot of him now, Naruto. I think you have roughed him up enough. Sasuke heard Itachi say and watched as Naruto nodded his head and lifted his foot off the ground. Sasuke didn't move as the two older boys stood above him, both looking down at him with impassive looks. Why did you have him do this to me? Sasuke asked as he looked directly at Itachi with a hateful look. Itachi wasn't affected by the gaze. It's simple. This attitude you have carried with you for the last few years stops today, and it's time you started to grow up. Itachi told him. I have this attitude because of what you did to our family. Why you killed our father. Sasuke said back, trying to stand up, but saw Itachi shake his head at him. Do you know why I'm as strong as I am today, Sasuke? Do you know why I have got the level I am currently at? This time Sasuke did snort, though he regretted it as pain filled his nose. Because you're a prodigy and your mother's precious eldest. Hey! Naruto barked at him. Show your mother the respect she rightfully deserves. You should feel lucky Makoto-sensei is your mother. Many would kill to have a woman like her as their parent. You are wrong about that. It's true being a prodigy does help in becoming a strong shinobi, but it will only get you so far. I am strong today because I chose to surround myself with friends who care for me and would have my back whenever I asked it of them. Friends? Friends make you weak. We are Uchiha. We are the strongest. Sasuke barked out as Itachi shook his head. That's where you are wrong again, Sasuke. Being alone doesn't make you strong. In fact, being alone will only limit and hinder your progress as a shinobi. If you continue the way you are, I can guarantee you will not reach past a certain level of strength and you will be left behind, while everyone else in your generation only further expands their abilities and remain far ahead of you. Lies. Sasuke barked back, but Itachi wasn't finished. Do you think Eiji and Mito are as strong as they are because they did it all alone? Naruto asked and saw Sasuke have no comment for a response. They had our parents. They had their friends. They had their teachers. True, as of now they're only genin just like you, but in a few years? Who knows? A lot can happen in a couple of years. Do you really want to see my siblings and the friends you chose to abandon for a life of solitude to surpass you every way imaginable? Very slowly they saw Sasuke shake his head. Itachi went down on one knee as he stared towards his younger brother. I understand why you're angry, Sasuke. You feel betrayed with what happened that night. The way our father died. Sasuke tried to look away, but Itachi's hand grabbed his chin and forced him to look at him. He was so focused on my training and you felt like he didn't pay enough attention to you. That I took him away from you at a time where he was finally beginning to show interest in your development. He was the one who taught you the fireball jutsu, right? Sasuke nodded. A lot happened that night, Sasuke. I see now that perhaps it wasn't a good idea to keep you the truth of why it happened away from you. He saw Sasuke's eyebrows suddenly lift up in surprise, not fully understanding what he meant. I asked Naruto to beat you like this because you needed to see that even though we are Uchiha, that does not make us invincible. Madara Uchiha thought he was invincible and look where it got him. I guess. Sasuke admitted. But what do you mean by the truth? I will tell you all about it and I won't spare any details, Sasuke. However, I want you to promise me here and now that this attitude you have carried around for so long will finally end and you open up more. You will start reconnecting with your friends, you will cease trying to frighten our sister who just wants to spend time with her big brother, and you will stop ignoring our mother who cares and loves you too much to see you shut her out. Sasuke tried to look annoyed, but the look Itachi gave him stopped that from happening. He didn't look too pleased about it, but after a moment's silence he nodded his head. I'll try. Thank you. Itachi said before turning his head to Naruto. Could you do something about his nose? Sure. Naruto got down on one knee next to Itachi before grabbing Sasuke's head in his hands and putting his thumbs in front of his nose. This is going to hurt. You ready? Sasuke nodded his head before Naruto pushed his thumbs down on Sasuke's nose and pushed it back into place. The sound was sickening and Sasuke grunted in pain though managed to tough it out. All you guys to talk though, I will say one thing before I leave. Naruto drew Shusui out of the seal in his wrist and stuck the tip of the blade directly underneath Sasuke's chin, frightening the boy at how close it was to his skin and how quick it appeared. I hear you have had a bit of an obsession with my sister Mito and have been giving looks that have been making her feel uncomfortable. Naruto's eyes grew colder by the second that made Sasuke gulp, forgetting about his previous attitude. If I find out you tried anything, and I mean anything, without her consent, I will personally get you like a fish and feed you to my tigers. Is that understood? Understood. Sasuke muttered out before Naruto disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Once he was gone, Sasuke tried to glare but stopped when he saw Itachi looking at him. What? I'd take the threat seriously. I've seen him gut people and feed them to his tigers. Be very careful. Sasuke's face paled before he reluctantly nodded. Come with me. I believe I owe you a conversation. Itachi helped Sasuke up before they both disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving the training ground empty. Next day. Naruto sat in the packed Jonin hall right beside Hana and Hayate as they all sat on the cushioned ground with every other Jonin of the Leaf Village. Across the room, sitting on the ground, he could see Kakashi with his usual gravity-defying silver hair, and as usual was sat with Asuma, Kurenai, and Guy. They all knew they were all gathered together to discuss the up-and-coming Chunin exams that were only 2 weeks away. Itachi wasn't with them due to being on an Umbu mission, and Makoto was at home since she was still classed as a retired Jonin. Kushina was sat off with Tsumin Izuka at the front of the gathering. They sat patiently before the side door at the front of the room opened up, with Minato, Hiruzen, Koharu, Hamura, and the Jonin commander Shikaku Nara walking into the room and taking the seats at the front of the room. Minato wore his Hokage hat while Hiruzen took the spot next to him. Unsurprisingly, Danzo was nowhere to be seen, which was no surprise since the man rarely left his own personal quarters, though he and Itachi both knew the man was likely in the hidden root bunker somewhere in the village. The Jonin in the room were quiet as they entered the room and waited for the meeting to begin. After a few moments, everyone watched Minato stand up while placing his Hokage hat on the desk in front of him. Good morning, everyone. I'm sure you're all aware what this meeting is about and are all aware that the Chunin exams will be taking place in the next 2 weeks. Naruto watched everyone nod their head and heard some whispered and murmurs among some of his fellow jonin. Since it's so close, it's time to let everyone know what will be happening this year. First off, the first exam will of course be the written exam, which will take place at the academy. I plan on having 2 of our chunin set up a genjutsu on the lower level to try trick the genin. If they can't see through it, then we will be weeding out those not ready very early on. The proctor for the first exam will be Ibiki Marino, head of the interrogation corps. Many shivered at that as Ibiki stood up from his seat and bowed to the Hokage and the elders whilst giving some of the other jonin a glare. It had its desired effect as some looked away as he sat back down. Some of the jonin were already starting to pay their respects to the genin that would have to face him. The second exam will be a survival exercise that will take place in the Forest of Death. The genin will have 5 days to collect 2 scrolls, one of which will be given to them after passing the first exam and the second which they will need to retrieve. Once they have both, they will need to go directly to the tower located in the heart of the forest. The proctor for the second exam will be Anko Mitarashi of the interrogation corps. Like Ibiki, Anko stood up and bowed to the Hokage and elders, though wore a very pleased look on her face while waving at everyone else in the room. Her friends had to chuckle at her antics and was happy to show her excitement. Some whispered some harsh words about the purple-haired Kunoichi but were quickly silenced by Hana and Naruto, who had heard them. Finally, the third exam will of course be the annual one-on-one tournament. As always, it will be held in the Konoha Stadium that was fixed up after the field was partially destroyed by the Sandaime and my son. Naruto heard chuckles ring out from through the room, making him get embarrassed. It didn't help that he heard his mother chuckle the loudest, and Anko got him in a headlock and ruffled his hair. The proctor for the third exam will be Ganma. As before, Ganma stood up and did his part before sitting back down. Now would the Jonin senseis all stand up and give us the names of the genin in your team that you are putting forward? Minato sat back down and got a pen and paper as he began preparing to list down the teams and the name of those from the leaf that would be competing. Naruto watched as 5 of the Jonin senseis stood up, one of which was his mother, who had a proud grin on her face. Kakashi Hatake nominates Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Eiji Namikaze of Team 7. Kurina Yuhi nominate Hinata Hyuga, Yakumo Kurama, and Shino Aburame of Team 8. Might Guy nominate Rock Lee, Tenten, and Niji Hyuga of Team 9. Asuma Sarutobi of Team 10 nominate Choji Akimichi, Ino Yamanaka, and Kiba Inuzuka of Team 10. Kushina Namikaze of Team 11 nominate Mito Namikaze, Shikamaru Nara, and Sai of Team 11. The room broke out into whispers at the nominations. Everyone seemed surprised that the rookies of the village were already being placed into the Chunin exams so soon. After only 6 months, they had to wonder how far they could have come in that space of time. But Naruto knew how far they had come. He had seen firsthand Eiji manage to defeat Haku with Sasuke, and Sakura was progressing nicely in her medical ninja training. Plus, Mito and her team were gelling nicely even if they bickered a lot. He had a feeling they would be surprising everyone for this Chunin exams. Hokage-sama. Naruto heard as everyone looked towards the Jonin that had spoken up. What other villages will be sending teams this year? That got everyone curious, since everyone knew they had to be on their guard when other villages sent teams to Konoha. Well, we have quite a number this year. We have multiple teams from Kyuzugakure, Takigakure, Otogakure, Amigakure, and even some from Sunagakure. From what the Kazekage has informed me, his children will be participating this year, no doubt to help spice up the Chunin exams this year. Some accepting murmurs were heard in the hall. Suna had been a relatively positive ally in the last 2 decades, though there was always going to be some distrust. No one seemed too bothered with the teams from the smaller villages. Naruto felt a little downtrodden at not hearing one of the other great shinobi, but before he could dwell on it, his father continued. However, that's not all. Naruto had snapped up and looked towards his father. I received 2 messages over the past 3 days before this meeting. It seems that Kirigakure will also be taking part and will be sending 2 teams to compete. Not only that, but Iwagakure will also be sending multiple teams this year. Along with the teams, Iwagakure has decided to finally reach out to us and put together some kind of alliance between our 2 villages. But Suchikage will be present during the final exam but will be sending his granddaughter to begin talks. When he finished speaking, many of the Konoha shinobi looked angry and were muttering obscene words, especially towards Iwa. Many had lost family and loved ones in the Third Shinobi War, and everyone knew there was still some kind of bad blood between their two villages. Even Kushina was frowning. She didn't like the thought of so many potentially threats in Konoha, especially near her babies. It was a thought that was going through many of the Konoha mothers in the room. Naruto, though, ignored everyone else in the room and wore a megawatt smile on his face. He tried to hide it, but he just couldn't do so. He was too happy. Kuratsuchi was coming to Konoha at last and was doing so to begin peace talks and an alliance between their two villages. The time for their reveal might have been closer than he realized. No one seemed to notice the smile since most were too busy talking about the exams. Everyone except the always observant Sandaime Hokage. Well, what's got him so happy?
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.